My daughter Sierra and her friend Michelle killed in a car accident. They were coming from a party. They both had been drinking, and she drove way too fast.
What I would say to someone who thinks it's okay to text and drive, I would tell them what had happened to me. I did not expect anything like this to happen, and causing a man to lose his life.
He died of massive head trauma, and had he been wearing a seatbelt at the time, the probability that he survived would have been great.
No mother should ever have to see their children look like that, or cry like that, or wash glass out of a little girl's hair.
I heard the boys screaming, and I kind of covered my head, and I could hear the window shattering, the boys screaming, and then all of a sudden, everything was quiet.
A woman from Fort Atkinson, she's a nurse. What happened is she automatically stopped in to had to see what was going on. Fortunately, she could, because she's the only one that could get in the car. The EMTs were too big to get in the car, so this woman jumped in the car with our son to try to see if she could help, and realized that it was the end. He was dying. So she told us at that point she stopped being a nurse and became a mother.
The biggest mistake we made was not wearing our seatbelts. The two of us girls that didn't, we had the most injuries. I was going 5 minutes down the road, and that's all it took for me to get into a life-changing accident.
If I hadn't been wearing my seatbelt, I definitely think I would have gone through the windshield. I don't think I would be here today.
If I hadn't had the seatbelt on, I would assume I would have been thrown from the car, and then again it would be one of those tragic stories. I wouldn't be here telling you.
I found out at the crash scene that a woman had died. She was a single mom and had 2 young children, and she died instantly because of me, a drunk driver.
Me and a couple of friends were out drinking and partying, and we decided to get in the car and drive that night. And you know, I buckled my seatbelt right away because it's just something I've always done. My parents have taught me to do. And we were going around a corner, and we were probably going about 70 miles an hour. You know, I knew it was coming. They knew it was coming too. A couple cuss words came out, and as we take the corner, we started to roll, and I'm sitting upright in the car. And you know, I started screaming, you know, what happened? Where are you guys? I'm screaming, Matt, Jeremy, Kyle, where are you guys? And kind of look around, nobody's in the car. I'm all alone. So I unbuckle my seatbelt, the car is smashing all around me. I can't get any doors open. But I crawled out a window, and I seen my boyfriend, Matt, lying there right away, and he was lying on his back like he was sleeping. So I actually knelt beside his head, and I lifted it up, and there was a hole the size of probably a baseball. Lots of blood. You know he's dead, but you don't want to believe it, kind of thing. I was the only one wearing a seatbelt. And you know, the boys, they were having a good time. They were all laughing, and I even said, you know, we're going kind of fast, you guys put your seatbelt on. Or they just didn't think it could happen to them, you know. With the alcohol impairing their judgment, they just didn't think, I guess.
I was driving in Milwaukee on Hampton heading east, and about 9:30 or 10, I don't really know the exact time, but I was driving just to get make a repair on a car, and I got hit, and the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital. It's about, I think, 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Everything I say is just what I've been told because I remember nothing. But the information that I got was that the person was driving at 50 miles an hour plus. The driver was not legally drunk but had some alcohol, and then they took a drug test as they do and had Oxycontin, cocaine, a combination of those things. So my story is really just how lucky I am that I'm okay And one of the strangest things from the incident, because people always ask, you know, has your life changed? But every time I'm aware of an accident and somebody dies, I start to cry or have, because I think, why am I alive and they aren't? They were concerned about blood on the brain, and they watched me every hour for about 2 days. There was a major concern about what could happen, and I'm grateful for the medical care that I got and that everything went okay. They released me in about 2 days, and I've been virtually fine ever since. I think the major takeaway from my story is, and the fact that you talk about zero, is that it can be done. We live in a society where everybody understands it now. It just requires not only the help of people when they realize they shouldn't be behind the wheel, but the help of all the people around them.
My 27-year-old son was a teacher, was returning from a reception actually on his birthday, and was involved in a car accident and died, and unfortunately wasn't wearing a seatbelt at the time. Yeah, according to the physicians, it was the cause of death was head trauma. So in all likelihood, he would have survived had he been wearing a seatbelt. You know, for a long time, I didn't wear a seatbelt, and it's unfortunate that tragedy has to impact on you before you see the importance of this very, very simple task. It takes 2 seconds to buckle up. You're putting your life in jeopardy, and you're putting children's lives in jeopardy when you don't buckle up. Take that 2 seconds just to buckle up.
I got into a car accident because I was texting and driving and I was distracted. This happened just after work. I got done at midnight, just on my way home, and Jim Weiss had been riding his bicycle on the road that night, and I happened to be texting and driving that night also, and I hit him with my car. Once the crash happened, I was like, holy crap, this just happened. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911 while I was running towards Jim, and I get just standing there waiting for the ambulance to come. He was there. It looked like it was hard for him to breathe. But he was struggling. I completely shut down from the world. I didn't know how to feel. I was so worried about this man. I was hoping that he would make it. And I kept thinking in my head, I wish I didn't. Why did I have to text and drive this night? Why did I do it? Why wasn't I careful? Or why didn't I just wait? Because the text wasn't even worth it. I was scared what was going to happen to me. I was scared what was going to happen to him. Right now, I'm serving time in the Outagamie County Jail. Once I get out, I have to do at least 500 hours of community service and go out and do speeches, public speeches, and reach out to at least 200 people a year. 0 in Wisconsin. The goal, I would say, it's to get a message out there to tell people that it's not okay, it's not safe, to help prevent things like this from happening, and to help out each other.
And we were just going 5 minutes down the road, it was nice outside, whatever. Why wear my seatbelt? And we were definitely speeding. I usually drive a truck, you know, it's way heavier than a car. So going down a hill with a knoll on it, I went airborne, came down on 3 wheels, lost control, and I rolled over several times, was ejected, and the car rolled over the top of me. One of the other girls was ejected at the top of the hill. She just scraped up her leg really bad. She had about 78 stitches maybe on the back of her leg. She can't feel it very well, but she can still walk. The 2 girls wearing their seatbelts stayed in the vehicle. They were able to go home the next morning. The car rolling over the top of me, that's the whole reason I broke my back. That left me paralyzed from the waist down. It took me a long time to get where I am now, to be okay with myself, but lately I've been able to make efforts towards helping others to not have to deal with what I've gone through. Take a look at me. This is what happens when you don't wear your seatbelt, when you think it's okay not to do it. If this preventable accident could have been avoided, I'd be doing the same things I did before. I'd be able to jump in my truck and go wherever in the world I wanted to go, or jump on my horse and go ride for the day without my dad having to be there or help me or strap me into the saddle. 0 in Wisconsin means a great deal to me now. I'm more particular about getting in a vehicle and putting my seatbelt on, making sure everybody in the vehicle has a seatbelt on, making sure whoever's driving is not speeding. And it's not just for me, it's for a greater purpose. It's to save a life or two. That's what this entire thing's about.
It was Mother's Day about 2 years ago, and my family and I were driving home from my grandmother's house. It was my 3-year-old son, my 2-year-old daughter, my 1-year-old daughter, and I was 6 months pregnant at the time. And we were hit by a drunk driver. He ran a stop sign and broadsided the entire side where my 2 daughters were sitting and spun us around and pushed us into a ditch. My kids were crying. My daughter Piper was screaming. She was in a rear-facing car seat. My daughter Callaway was sitting in the back seat, predominantly where the truck had hit. And then I saw my son. He didn't really look like he was alive. The first responder said, he's still alive, but his breathing is really, really difficult. You need to keep talking to him. I remember, just saying, Micah, I love you so much, and I need you to come back to me. Micah was diagnosed with a very traumatic brain injury that greater than 90% of the people who are diagnosed with it are in a vegetative state for the rest of their life. And we got a miracle. He made a 100% recovery. Had I not been wearing a seatbelt, I would have lost my baby. Had my children not been buckled in, oh my gosh, I could not imagine if they were thrown from the car and you couldn't find them, or how damaging that would be. The person that hit us probably didn't think about how he could impact somebody else's family, but he impacted my family. No mother should ever have to see their children look like that, or sit next to their son as they spasm with tubes coming out of their body. And I'll always have that vision. I'll always have that memory. It doesn't go away just because he's better now. I think the greatest Mother's Day gift I gave myself was buckling my kids in, because they're all healthy and alive.
I was on my way up north to go fishing at our cabin, and on the way up north, I drank in the car. I had drank and drove before. Just north of Wasaki, I drifted across the center line of the road, and I hit another car head-on. I found out at the crash scene that a woman had died. She was a single mom. I didn't give her a chance. You read the autopsy report, the injuries were massive internal injuries. She died instantly. I didn't give her a chance. I heard those words go into my brain. I understood them. I registered. I knew what that meant. But I don't know what the words are to explain the feeling you have when you're responsible for killing someone through a drunk driving crash. Many people take drinking and driving for granted. Sometimes it seems to be a culture in Wisconsin. And it's something that just people do without another thought. I had drink and drove many times. This was the first time anything has ever happened to me. I've never had a drunk driving, although I should have had many. I've never been involved in a crash, and my first crash from a drunk driving incident cost the life of another human being. And I had to deal with that. It has not been an easy road to deal with. It's been a tremendously hard road to deal with that. But it doesn't compare anything to what that woman's family has had to go through. They lost a mom, they lost a sister, they lost a daughter, and they've got to live with that for the rest of their life. There's nothing I can do to bring her back. You think that it's not going to happen to you? I'm here today to tell you that it can happen to you. It happened to me. I didn't think it was going to be me, but it is. So the dangers of drinking and driving are tremendous. The ramifications are huge, and we don't think about that. And I think the reason we don't think about it is because we're selfish, we're doing what we want to do, and we don't think it's going to hurt anybody else. But it does. It hurts far more people than we can begin to imagine. And if every individual will just take a little step forward and make a change and not get behind the wheel, we can start to take the culture of Wisconsin and turn it. We can start to get to the zero in Wisconsin. We can make this work if we all try together.
My story, well, I was in the car with one of my teammates, and we were on our way to our basketball game that night. We're just pulling out on Highway 59. I guess I didn't realize how icy it was, and I started speeding up. I got to about 50 miles per hour, and all of a sudden my car swerved off to the left, and I thought we were going to get hit by an oncoming car. Like, I tried correcting it, and then all of a sudden we swerved to the right, hit a snowbank head on, and our car flipped over, rolled a few times, and then landed on the wheels. And I remember looking over at my teammate, and I was like, "Are you okay?" And she was like, "Yeah, I just hit my head, but I'm all right." And it was really scary. I called my mom first. She hung up with me and immediately called the police, and the police arrived. The whole process took about an hour, and they sent me free to go at about close to 7:15, and I had to play in my game at 7:30, so I had just gotten here, and I had to quick suit up, and I was right in the game right after that. Rachel. All my teammates were there wondering, like, "Oh, what happened, Rachel?" And you know, I was a little bit rattled up, but I was ready to play. The only thing that happened to me was, since the windshield broke, there was glass everywhere, and I only came out with a few cuts from the glass on my hands, and that was it. What I learned about driving in winter road conditions is that I thought the road was clear to me. I didn't see ice, and I would definitely say you never know. I would say to someone who doesn't think wearing a seatbelt is important would be buckle up, because my seatbelt saved my life.
I was impacted by unsafe driving in Wisconsin. My 17-year-old son, Sean, had been killed in a traffic accident on I-94, mile marker 278 in the Oconomowoc area. He was a rear seat passenger in the car, two girls in the front. They were taking one of the girls home. They proceeded down I-94. She was traveling at 78 miles an hour through a construction zone when she veered off to the right and then made the crucial inexperienced decision to overcorrect, and then at 78 miles an hour went through the median, spun around, came up airborne on the westbound lanes, and hit a truck head on, at which point the car flipped up in the air, landed on the roof. It wasn't her fault in the long run. It was just she made bad decisions, as did the other girl in the car, as did Sean. They all made bad decisions that day. I mean, he hopped in the back seat. He chose not to buckle up, and he knew better. A couple of days after Sean's funeral, I was sitting in downtown Oregon, drinking coffee, watching the world go by, everybody going on with their regular life. No changes in their lives, and I realized that we didn't have that option. I happened to look up and I noticed across the street was the local driving school. I thought, you know, maybe this is the answer. I go talk to kids. So I went in that night with an 8x10 photo of Sean and our story, talked to maybe a dozen or so kids, and said, this is something that I have to do. I felt good about it coming out. As hard as it is to talk about, it's important that this comes out of making bad decisions, wearing seat belts, just being a good rider as well as a good driver. Sean is my focal point in there. It's all about his life from the time he was born up until the day of the car crash. That's why I do the presentation I do, because it keeps Sean with me It's the only thing he and I can do together, and that's go out and try to save lives. Myself, I've got a huge hole in my heart. My wife, the same. His brother, I mean, he's lost his best friend and his brother. This is going to affect him the rest of his life. It's more than about you. It's about your loved ones and your friends. How are they going to move on without you if something happens? There's so many preventable deaths that occur. The lack of seat belts, the texting, the drunk driving, the inattentive driving, the too fast for conditions. I think Zero in Wisconsin is a great thing. It brings to light that bad things do happen to everybody, and it can happen to you.
My daughter Sierra and her friend Michelle were at a party. Sierra had been trying to get somebody, had been calling friends, trying to get somebody to come and pick her up because she knew she had been drinking. Shouldn't be driving. Subsequently, when they fled the party, they were operating way too fast, failed to negotiate a curve, and their car went sideways into a tree at a high rate of speed, and they both died instantly from the impact.
These teens think they're invincible. My daughter told me 3 weeks before she died, if I can't have fun, I don't want to live. And I said to her, you know, Sierra, those consequences, sometimes they're deadly. And then she proved it. Since Sierra's died, our whole life has changed. Our daughter, she didn't graduate from high school. She'll never get married. She'll never go to college. She'll never have children. Every day, every minute of each day, I live with my daughter's death. The choice that she made that night affected so many people. Not only did she take herself, she took her best friend with her.
Rose is right. There isn't a day goes by. You look at everything much differently. All we can do is do whatever we can so that somebody else doesn't go through the same experience that we have.
If someone thinks that they're okay to drive after they've been drinking alcohol, I would like to take them by the hand and walk one block up from my house and go visit my daughter's grave and her friend Michelle's just right down the way. I go see my daughter every morning and every night before I go to bed. That's how I see my daughter. So if you think you're okay to drink and then drive, you have a rude awakening, a very rude awakening. I live this every single day. That's how I get to see my daughter.
Zero in Wisconsin.
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 A vision we can all live with.
A vision we can all live with.